Hello, it's Thursday, it's 2 o'clock, so that means webinar!
Hooray!
Today I am joined by Alastair Meiklejon, and as always I'm delighted to spend time with Alastair. We are talking, what would you invest with £5,000?
Mm-hmm.
It's a series that we've been doing with our specialists over the last couple of weeks and have more to come, all which is very exciting, but it gives people a little bit of something that, you know, if you've got a small investment that you're wanting to make and you're looking for some advice on what to do with it, then you've got a different choice from our painting specialists to Alastair doing watches today, which is one of his favourite areas, to jewellery and more to come. So keep an eye out for our articles and webinars as we go through November. We've also, during the rest of October, we've got our Wednesday Club, which is a events-based group that we're looking to bring people along and show them different areas in the luxury market, whether it's with Simon a couple of weeks ago, where we were taken through his studio, which was wonderful, and on Picture Restoration, to next Wednesday, the 27th of October, when we're going to the IBV International Vault.
Which I'm looking forward to quite a lot, actually. I think it's going to be quite good fun.
It's fascinating, and I hope everybody that's joining us really do enjoy it. I know I'm looking forward to it too. So, but let's go back to this week. Alastair, your chosen subject is watches.
I feel like I'm in the black chair now being questioned, but yes, carry on.
Which I know is a huge area of passion that you have. Alastair is probably, his breadth of knowledge always amazes me. And I know that watches is very much sort of your personal
Absolutely.
love. So is the watch market booming?
I think what we've seen in the last couple of years since, I hate to say it since lockdown, but it has re-emphasised the whole kind of market. We've seen it in so many different areas, be it from lower value watches to the real top end. And I think so many markets have kind of not played on it, but know about it. So, for example, I talk a lot about Patek Philippe, the 5711, Audemars Piguet, the Royal Oaks, and even down to Rolex Submariners, which are making double what they were a few years ago. And it's ridiculous. So to even say that the watch market was not booming would be ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of money that some of these watches are making, but it's clear the demand is there. But also, it's very clear that a lot of people don't know what they've got in terms of investments. The 5711s, when they were bought retail 10 years ago, were maybe £25,000 watches. They're now £100,000 watches, which is ridiculous. And that's across the board, be it with Patek Philippe, be it with Audemars Piguet. Anyone with these watches at the moment, especially gents sports watches, will just be absolutely mesmerised by the way that they've increased in value in just in the last couple of years. I
mean, a lot of what we're doing when we're valuing for clients is on watches, and a lot of them have been bought for investment purposes. Mm-hmm. And as we see from our clients are spending, you know, large sums of money, but you think that you can't get into the investment market for really under 25, 35,000. Yeah. So looking at £5,000, are there many watches available under that?
£5,000, and I think I said in my article, sounds like a lot of money to be buying a mechanical timepiece that sits on your wrist, that ultimately does exactly the same job as an £8 Casio that you can buy from Argos. But ultimately, at that kind of price point, you can still get into the market, still buy something interesting, and still buy something that quite happily I would probably wear and sit across a table from a chap with a £200,000 Audemars Piguet and go, you know what, I can still hold my own here, and I think this is just as interesting as your watch. So I think there's a really good £5,000. I think is a great price point to start, and possibly a great price point to buy your first proper watch.
So if you haven't read Alastair's article, please do, because the webinar is based on his article and there will be lots in there that we won't cover. but you talk about an interesting choice.
Yeah. So the first watch I chose came out about 18 months ago, and I first saw it about 2 years ago, and that's the Ulysse Nardin, the new diver that they've produced. Now, Ulysse
Again,
Nardin,
beautifully made.
oh, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I know a few people that have got a Ulysse Nardin, and it's this great kind of just slightly off kilter choice because it's around the same price point as a lot of other watches at £5,000, but not many people, apart from real watch aficionados, will know what it is. And I quite like that about it. Brilliantly made watch, a very, very simple watch, and we'll bring up an image now. It's just one of those things that I think you could wear quite comfortably. It's not shouty, but if you're sat across the, a desk from somebody with a 200 grand Patek Philippe, they'd look at it and go, you know what, that's quite interesting. It's one of those watches that I think watch guys like and watch guys know, but it runs a little bit underneath the radar. It's about £5,500, so I cheated a little bit there, but I still think it's kind of within the remit of that kind of price range. But it's a great watch. It looks brilliant, and I think it's a good option.
So Alastair, we've discussed the Ulysse Nardin and how much you love that, but you mentioned Seiko.
Yeah, Seiko are one of those great watch brands that everyone knows exist, but unfortunately everyone kind of dismisses a little bit because, and I think I said about this in my article, and I'm sorry to anyone that drives one of these, but it's somewhat akin to a Lexus because you know it's brilliantly made, you know it's always going to perform, you know it's going to last forever, and you know that if it needs servicing or anything does need repairing, it's going to be remarkably cheap to do so. But I think the problem you'll always have with the brand is that the fact that it's not one of those truly beloved brands that people think I aspire to own a Rolex, I aspire to own Omega, when it's actually a very similar brand to something that you wore at school that cost 50 quid. So I think that's one of the problems that it would take to overcome, unfortunately, on the Seiko front.
And what would the Seiko come in at if you're looking to buy a good one?
Well, the Seiko is around about £5,500 as well. So it's about the same kind of figure as the Ulysse Nardin. So again, cheated a little bit slightly on it. But it is it's a really good watch. It looks nice. And I think the only thing that lets it down, and I'm sure loads of Seiko fans will have a massive go at me about this, the only thing that unfortunately lets it down slightly is the dial.
So we have our £5,000 in our pocket. We're keen to spend. Mm-hmm. So what is the watch of choice?
Well, my watch of choice in this price bracket, and I think, and I said this in my article as well, I think it would be totally applicable in many, many different price brackets, even up to quite a significant amount, is the Omega Seamaster 300. It's just a brilliant watch. I mean, you look at it, the quality of it is outstanding. You look at the dial, first of all, it's got these beautiful laser cut waves, which is it goes back to, obviously, it's a Seamaster, it's a naval watch, and so you've got the waves that are actually laser burnt into the dial. It comes with a tremendous combination of colours and metals and lots of different things that you can actually buy with it. The movement, for starters, you've got this fantastic George Daniels coaxial movement that, to buy a movement made by George Daniels, even designed by George Daniels, we're paying £1.4 million for one of his watches that come up at auction. So to be able to have one of those things is tremendous. I just think it's a brilliant practical watch that comes in at a fantastic price point. It's actually £1,000 cheaper than the other two that I've mentioned. So 4,650 quid. You could actually go and fly and pick it up from Switzerland with the change you get from it. But it's a brilliantly designed watch, and it just does everything it says on the tin, really. And I think Omega have had such a good run in the last 10 years with producing these items. I mean, they had this huge kind of competition, I suppose, with Rolex over the last 30, 40 years. They each produce sports watches. They're both kind of similar in their kind of outlook. They're both premium products. They both are sports oriented. But you look at Omega, they've sponsored and done timekeeping for Olympics, for World Cups, for major sporting events. I mean, they had the first watch on the moon, 1969. I mean, you can't really get a better endorsement than a man walking on the moon with a watch that you've made. I mean, that if you're gonna
wasn't product placement though, was it?
No. I mean, I honestly believe that those Speedmasters were bought for a specific purpose, and they were. I mean, you look at the footage, and there's a guy. I think it's Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, or Neil Armstrong. They're literally timing their descent onto the moon with an Omega Speedmaster, and I mean, if you want an endorsement, that kind of says it all, really, doesn't it? And then obviously in more modern times, we've got James Bond, who currently wears an Omega Seamaster 300, but his special one with certain different colours, which you can buy as well, but it's about 10 grand. And it does look incredible, but I think if you wear a watch that says I'm James Bond, not really my cup of tea, really, to be perfectly honest. But to wear the same model but just in a different colour, I think says a lot. And it's a cool watch. The size is good, a little bit on the large side for some people, but I think it's a really, really good quality watch. Great heritage, great price point.
So we've got the money available. We've chosen what we want. So where would you go and buy it?
I mean, personally, I think the great thing compared to Rolex about buying an Omega is, and I thought about putting a Rolex on this list because I'm wearing an Explorer, which is slightly more available than maybe a Submariner would be. However, it's just not really. There's not as much going on with it. You can't do as much with it. There isn't much to it as for example a Seamaster or the Grand Seiko or the Ulysse Nardin. With a Rolex, you'd have to go to an authorised dealer and say, okay, I really want one of these, and then you'd basically have to enter into a diatribe with him about maybe buying a few more watches before you even get on a waiting list. You get on a waiting list, you wait 5 years, and then potentially you might get that phone call, and then you're told you can buy this now, and you feel like you're the most important person you want. However, you could spend £4,500, get something pretty much as good, if not better, in my opinion, from somewhere like a high street jewellers, Beaverbrooks, Watches of Switzerland, great retailer, and you'll get fantastic service, and you won't leave there like a Rolex authorised dealer feeling like, oh gosh, I'm such a little person because I can't buy this. Whereas you'll get fantastic treatment in any high street jeweller going and buying one, and it'll be a great experience and a great investment. And we're talking about investments in watches, and whilst do I think any of these are going to grow exponentially in value, I don't think they will. The Ulysse Nardin is unique in the fact that it's probably their most commercially accessible watch that they've made maybe ever, so I think there's going to be some aspect to that. However, with the Omega and the Seiko, I think you are always going to be able to look at them and go, I can wear this watch in 30 years, as long as you keep it serviced, which is an important aspect of all watches, especially if you're spending this amount of money on a watch. It's always good to keep them within those kind of servicing kind of points. But this should be a watch that lasts you 30, 40 years, if not more. I mean, I've got Omegas that date back to the 1920s that are brilliant and still keep time. So it goes to show a well-made mechanical piece of art like a good watch will last you a very long time.
So a good Christmas present, birthday present, small investment. Yep,
anything like that. It's that they're just, it's a really nice accessible price point that you can get, and I've said this, I think I said it earlier in the webinar. You can genuinely sit there as a watch guy owning those watches, knowing that you've got something that's really a good watch, and quite cool and quite just accessible. And to my mind, you can be as much a watch guy wearing one of these as you can wearing a 200 grand Patek. So it's a good thing.
Well, you heard it here, folks, if I can get my words out. Alastair, thank you so much for joining us today. As you can tell, Alastair's incredibly passionate about his watches, and I'm delighted to hear all. So look out for the rest of our articles and webinars, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And if we can work together on any of your client opportunities, then please do give us a call. We're always here to help, and we will hopefully see you all soon.
Many thanks. Bye bye now.
Bye.